Hey everybody, how you doing? It is another Wednesday night. It's 8 o'clock Central Time, which, as we just established before we went live, is the only time zone that matters. And anybody who says otherwise apparently lives in a different one. But it's time for another Get Off My Lawn podcast. So glad to have you along. Hopefully, this is going out on all the channels. I was going to check the Rumble one and make sure that's rolling. It looks like it must be. So I gotta pop that out yet. Let's pop that out so I can see the Rumble comments too. There we go. I should have had that done. This is great timing, John. All right, we're gonna have we're gonna have kind of a similar conversation tonight, similar to last week. Last week we had Cheryl and Brooke and Holly with us, talking about just the female role in society and how femininity doesn't mean weakness, stuff like that. So tonight we're going to go back to the conversation that we would have had 2 weeks ago if I hadn't been sick and I would have had a voice. Then we would have done this one already. But I think it worked out. Chivalry is not completely dead, whether you agree with it or not. I do. So we let the ladies go first this way. So I think it worked out better. So real quick here, let me go through and let's make a couple announcements real quick, and then we'll bring our panel in here. Of course, we want you to like, share, subscribe. And if you are watching us live, get those comments in. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, we can put them right up on the screen. If you are watching on Rumble, and Jeff, I see you out there on the Rumble side. I can see them. I just can't put them on screen. StreamYard doesn't yet have that integrated in with Rumble, but at least I can see them, and at least it lets me stream onto Rumble. So we've got that. Also, make sure that you go over to Rumble. I'm trying to grow that. We never know at any point when YouTube is going to just get rid of people who try to make sense out of the world. And so I'll be on here as long as I can because, again, I've got the biggest reach potential on YouTube. But if they kick me off, we'll be just fine on Rumble. We'll keep that going. And Rumble doesn't seem to care what you say as long as you don't break laws when you say it. And of course, you're not posting any pornography. So go over there, rumble.com/sandhillsmedia, /user/sandhillsmedia. And get subscribed over there on Rumble. You should check that out. A lot of people are moving over there. Also, we are very proud to be part of the Self-Defense Radio Network, which is a cool place where you can go and see all kinds of great podcasts. Some of them in video form, or they are out there available in video form. I think on Self-Defense Radio Network, it gives you links to the audio version of each one of them. But there's awesome shows over there that you need to go check out. Of course, you need to wait until this one's over. And then go check those out, sdrn.us. Go give them a look. Tonight's show is sponsored by Sandhills Defense, which is, of course, my firearm training company. So if you are in Northeast Nebraska, or if you're not and you're willing to help me with travel expenses, I mean, I have class. I will travel. So I wanted to name the company Paladin, but I figured that nobody under 50 was going to get that one. And so we kept on with the Sandhills theme, just like we do here from Sandhills Media. But that is our show sponsor tonight. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, I feel like I'm very beholden, especially tonight of all nights, to say the views and opinions expressed on the podcast belong to the individual expressing them. They don't necessarily reflect the views of any of the other panelists. Never mind the sponsors. And also remember that we don't give out legal or medical advice, because we're not doctors, we're not lawyers. And even if I get a doctor or a lawyer on, that's not what they're here for. So we'll cover all that. We've got a few people in our panel that have joined, and I see one that came in right after we started here. So let's just go through and introduce everybody so you know who everybody is. Coming to us from the capital city of Lincoln, Nebraska, everybody's favorite tactical teacher, and he's one of the 2 most eligible bachelors in that town. Travis P11, what's up, man?
Absolutely, man. I mean, I enjoy long walks on the range and a quiet evening around the reloading press, and if things get a little dirty, it usually involves some CLP. So that's all I got to say. So, John, thank you so much for the invite this evening. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to our discussion this evening. And I'm just oozing with machismo. I mean, I'm surprised you guys can even contain me, but I'm here, and
We'll do our
I'm make
best.
this conversation work. So
We will do our best to contain
I'm
you.
representing dad bods everywhere. All right, let's do it.
We'll
Let's
do what we can. All right. Also joining us, we have writer extraordinaire Tom Knighton is in the house. How are you, sir?
Hey, what's going on? I'm fair to partly cloudy as per usual.
Hey,
really stoked to be here too, because I actually wrote a book on masculinity a while back. So obviously this is a topic near and dear to my heart.
Right. And we are definitely going to get your take on a lot of different things here tonight. Also joining us, we have, well, we'll see. That's why I put the disclaimer up. If you piss everybody off, that's fine. It's not on me then. It's just on you.
Oh, that's fair.
We've got, speaking of pissing everybody off, we've got Squib Load. He is, what is it I always used to say? He's a nice guy once you get to know him, which is kind of code for he's an a-hole, but you'll get used to it. What's up, Squib?
You know, people were complaining that all the things I say in the beginning of my show take forever, but now that I've been here, yeah, we're probably on about equal footing. So I'll just refer them back to you.
Wake up, Squib. You got to wake up. I called on you. All righty. Thanks for being here. Squib's always good for a unique perspective and opinion too. And then also last, but certainly not least, stagecoach driver and now writer extraordinaire. What else? Catwalk model extraordinaire.
The Jack of all trades.
Right? Master of none?
Yeah, master of zero.
He is a brass instrument virtuoso. He can play the Glock 17 like nobody's business. So, just saying.
What is happening, gents? I'm glad to make it. I forgot, and then I forgot, and here I am.
Yeah, that's okay. Hey, you're here. That's all that matters.
I haven't seen some of you guys in a very long time, so this is really good.
No kidding. It's good to see your face and hear your voice. All of you guys, even some of you that I see most weeks. Who's out there in the chat so far? We've got Kingpin, of course. My beautiful bride, Sandhill Sweetheart, is out there. Sam of Anarchy, Michael Frost over on the Facebook side, and that's it. Get those comments in. I don't know if the notifications maybe didn't go out. Normally we've got a lot of people talking by now. So get those comments in and questions if you got them, and we'll get rolling here. So kind of what we talked about last week was how women in today's society, there are a lot of women out there who claim that, women and men are equal and there's no difference whatsoever. And women can be just as tough and manly as men and vice versa. But then we had a panel full of ladies last week who are strong, independent, very capable women who are also 100% girls, very feminine. They didn't give up any of their female characteristics to succeed in life, to succeed in what a lot of people consider to be a man's world, especially when it comes to being firearms instructors and trainers and things like that two of the three are. And it's just, we had a good conversation about how maybe the view of what a woman is or should be or should do has kind of changed over the years in society, but it's still necessary to have women that are actual womanly or girly girls. So again, tonight we're going to flip the coin over to the men's side and kind of talk about that. So I'm going to start off with just something I said before we went on air. And I mean, this is my position. We're going to probably have, a whole night's discussion basically on this one main point. But, people talk about being masculine, and a term that's thrown out a lot in the last few years is toxic masculinity. And we even did a whole show on this a while back, but I didn't necessarily get everybody's opinion like we will tonight. But I basically said then, and I'm going to say it now, if somebody is truly masculine, they're not toxic. And if somebody is toxic, then they're not being masculine. And that's really what it comes down to. So that's kind of the premise of tonight's show. We're going to talk about, we'll go around the horn, get everybody's opinion on, what it means to be a man, to be masculine, to be a manly man. And then, we'll talk about the other half, the toxicity, after that. So we'll start off on the positive stuff. I mean, what it actually means in each of your words, to be a man, and not only in society, but just yourself, your own view. If you think of yourself or the men that have influenced you throughout your life. So, Charlie, we'll just go in reverse order. Last one in, first one up. So, you get
Great.
to face the gauntlet first.
Wonderful. So I know no one's going to have these thoughts. Perfect. So I guess I don't think there's anything wrong with being a man. Obviously, I was my father died when I was a young man. I was 8, and my dad died, and I was raised by my mother, and I have 4 sisters. So there was one point in my life when everybody had long hair and earrings. And it didn't mean that I was a cross dresser or transgender, whatever they called it back then. I just had long hair and earrings because I wanted to be a rock star. It had nothing to do with anything else. But I spent a lot of time in my life not having that. Oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? Not having that male influence,
Mhm.
and I do think it's done a number on my life and how I see things and how I do things. I spend a lot of time talking, and I spend a lot of time talking because I grew up around women, and I'm I've had several ladies on my show. Um, they get in the car. Sometimes they get in the car with a complete stranger, and there's no threat that I'm going to whatever be inappropriate with them. Um, so that's just I don't know. That's just one of these things that I don't want to say I've struggled with, but it's just who I've become. That I'm not some big burly man. I don't watch sports. I don't know if this makes me whatever ridiculous. I'm not a sports guy. I sucked at sports when I was a kid. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being a man, and being a man can be whatever it is, whatever it means to you. I do think when I got to a point where I was a father, it was a little bit more important to be a man because I wanted to have a positive male role model for my kids. So when I became after I became a father is when I became a gun guy, and then I'm like, well, I'm going to do the gun guy stuff. And the route that I thought I needed to take was to learn how to shoot and buy guns and everything like that. But I thought I needed to learn how to hunt. But then I found out that I don't have the patience to hunt. I like to. I have taken my bow for a romantic walk in the woods, and I sit in a tree stand, and I try to read a book, and I drop the book, and I take a nap, and I'm like, all right, I'm freezing my tail off. This is ridiculous. I'm leaving. I'm done. And I haven't gone hunting for a number of years because it just doesn't fit into what I've got time and energy that I want to put into. So if hunting makes you being a man, then okay, I won't be manly, but I think masculinity has more with to me as a father. It's taking care of my kids and raising my kids. And I used to say that, and I stole this from someone else, so I can't take credit for it. But my job as a father isn't to raise my kids to be good kids. My job as a father is to raise my kids to be good adults. So have them be productive and have them have jobs and have them treat other adults with respect. And all of that kind of stuff. And my kids are 20 and 22. And I think even though the other setbacks I've had in my life after I got married, my kids are pretty good people. And to me, maybe it's not manly, but that's good. That is a manly thing to have. It's my kids are my responsibility, and I became a gun owner because I'm like, I got this cute little boy, and I want to raise him, and I want to be around to raise him because he's my responsibility, and I want to be able to protect him, and I want to be able to protect my family so that I can raise my family because they're my responsibility. So I can see them grow, and I can see them grow into adults and all that sort of stuff. As far as being big and muscular and having a big beard, I don't know if that necessarily means people are manly. I don't know if that goes with toxic masculinity. I think toxic masculinity is just I think it's I don't know, just some fakakta buzzword. Um, I do. Part of my struggle with a lot of stuff is again not having a male influence when I was young, and I do think that when boys spend, I don't want to say too much time with women, but boys do spend a lot of time trying to make women happy, and whether it's their mother or whether it's the teachers at school. And if you look at your upbringings and your kids, most of the people in their elementary schools are probably women, unless it's the gym teacher or the band teacher. It's probably going to be a woman. And then they spend, young boys spend a lot of their time trying to make women happy. And then when they become teenagers, they're like, well, I got to do this to make girls happy. I got to do this to make girls happy. And then when people get married, I think guys got to spend time trying to figure out what makes their wife happy as well. One of the things I see on social media is a video of a guy that goes through and tells you all the things that he did to make his wife mad. And I'm like, even though it's funny, it's pathetic. It's pathetic that he's like, I did the dishes the wrong way. I put the dishes away in the dishwasher the wrong way, or I folded the clothes the wrong way, or I didn't make the bed the right way. Even though it's funny, I'm like, man, that is probably not, if that's really what it is, it's probably not a healthy relationship. So I think once somebody becomes masculine, they're comfortable in their own skin, they're happy doing what they're doing, and a good influence on their kids, and paying their bills, paying their taxes, and raising their kids. And yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool.
That's what I think I got.
There's some stuff in there that time permitting, I'd kind of like to unpack. We'll come back to it later.
Let me pour myself a stiff drink, and then we'll work on that.
How did that make you feel, Charlie?
Right.
Go ahead,
Exactly.
recline on the couch.
It reminds me of my mother. Ah!
So that's awesome. Squib, we'll move over to you, and again, we'll just start off with in your words, what makes a man a man? What makes a man manly or masculine?
Not acting like a woman.
That'd be a good start. Anything you want to expound on that?
I mean, look, for decades, our society has been telling males to behave a certain way, and it fights their instincts. It fights their biology. It fights their hormones. It fights tradition. It fights what the male role is. And when a man fights his instincts, that's what he ends up acting like. He ends up acting like a woman. And then those guys are confused why women aren't attracted to them. I think we both bring something, an element. Women have things that they naturally do well. Men have things they naturally do well. That doesn't mean that a woman can't do some of the same things as a man. It doesn't mean a man can't do some of the same things as a woman. There's also things that interest men naturally, and there's things that interest women naturally. And when you force a woman to do something because you say, well, equality or affirmative action or something, you force a man to do something because, you're not very much of a man if you can't do this, but they don't like it. It's artificial. It's forced. It's just not, the way of things. And I think that our society has gone away from that. Charlie touched on it a little bit with the whole, being raised by a woman and that sort of thing. And when divorces started becoming more rampant, you had, boys at home with their mom, and it wasn't always that dad ran off. Of course, that's the story they got from mom. It was that the court wouldn't let him in their life. The government got involved. We all know what happens when the government gets involved. And what do they got? They've got TV, movies, books, songs, and all the propaganda out there. And then you end up with a generation or two, or on maybe our third, of men acting like women. And then we wonder why our society is lost. We wonder why things are just turning out the way they are. And I don't agree with that. I don't raise my sons that way. And if somebody wants to put a label on me, go right ahead. I'll just make a video blasting them, and then, I'll get comments about you're rude and insensitive, and then I'll whatever, so I'm good. But I just see a lot of outside influences being there because the dad is being made to look like a buffoon. The dad is being told by the judge, if you try to be involved in your kid's life, or you try to be involved in your kid's life in a way that I don't agree with, I will take them from you. And I see things like, alimony, child support, given that the house and everything else, and then you're working 3 jobs, and when do you have time for your kids? And you can go, well, if you love them, you know what, zip it. All right, you haven't been there. So it's really difficult. It's really difficult. And I don't know if you've heard of MGTOW. Have you heard of that term?
I have not.
Men going their own way. This is a lot of younger men have seen what happened to their dads, their grandpas, their uncles, their brothers, and they don't want this crap. And now women are complaining even more. Where are all the real men? Well, they all left because you and your sister and your mom and your grandma and your aunt did all this stuff. You're gonna say that you're mad that there aren't masculine men out there. There aren't any good men left. Where are all the good men at? But yet, it's the typical thing. You want your cake and eat it too. There's a difference between men and women. Women are not naturally accountable. Doesn't mean they can't be accountable. Doesn't mean they shouldn't be accountable. But their nature is to not be accountable. A man will take accountability for his actions. If he doesn't, he's not being very masculine. And that's why the male role model is important, because a man can see, or a young man can see an older man, not just be proud of his successes, but also accept his failures. And look what we have now. We have a generation or two of young men who don't know how to deal with failure. They don't know how to deal with rejection. They don't know how to, because there's not a positive male role model in their life. And if they go to social media or mainstream media, they get the garbage that's out there that isn't real. Watch the Hallmark Channel. Those guys there, the guy that comes back into town and doesn't want to have anything to do with her, and then at the end he falls for her and he's Mr. Nice. That's not reality. But yet you got a young man watching that, and he's going to go through bad relationship after bad relationship after bad, because he's not being masculine. And being masculine doesn't mean you're abusive. It doesn't mean that you're a creep. It doesn't mean that you're a criminal or anything else like that. Somebody might call you a jerk, but maybe you're just standing up for yourself. Or then again, maybe you really are a jerk, but that's okay. There's a guy that's more masculine than you that'll put you in your place. And if there's a woman out there that puts you in your place, yeah, it really says something about you. And that's not to say, once again, that women can't be strong, that women can't be leaders, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that our chemistry, our biology, nature has already kind of governed a lot of this for us. And I think that in the name of equality or some of this other garbage that people just made up, that we're losing our identity as men and women.
Awesome stuff there too. All right, Tom, we're going to move over to you. Before we do, I just want to welcome Pat in the bunker real quick and just say hey to Pat. We'll circle back around and get your opinion here in a little bit, Pat. But Tom, you have written a book on this very topic. So first off, tell us a little bit about the book, and then I want to hear your version of masculinity or manliness.
Well, my book actually started as a reaction to a book that was supposed to be about masculinity, but I feel like it ran into the toxic masculinity. It was about, well, yeah, to be a man, you've got to bang a lot of women, and you got to look jacked, and that's being a man. And no, it's ridiculous. I mean, I think there's part of being a man is having strength. Physical strength has a place. I mean, I know my wife insists on physical strength to open various jars around the house. So obviously that's a thing. But there's a certain strength and stoicism. Where you're the rock for your family, things like that. You being a provider for a family. Not that women can't be a provider. Women work. Sometimes they make more than the guy. Everything. That's great. But a guy has to be able to provide a certain amount for his family. He has to be a protector. Maybe working out's part of that. maybe it's not, but you've got to be ready to stand, in the doorway between a 200-pound cracked out guy and your wife and kids. That's part of it. It's a part that most of us will never be faced with, and none of us want to be faced with. But I mean, we're gun guys. We recognize that what you want and what happens aren't always going to be the same thing. That's why we're gun guys. If it was just, well, I don't want this to happen, well, we wouldn't need a gun. Well, I'm not going to get robbed because I don't want to get robbed. Oh, well,
right.
It's like, guy pulls a knife, give me your wallet. Well, I don't want to rob. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were someone else. I'm sorry. I'll go rob them. Yeah, it doesn't happen. But that's part of it, and again, it's not, women can't do this. It's traditionally, that was the role the male took on, for a variety of reasons, many of which are biology, but, other reasons have popped up here and there. And that's obviously a key part. But there's a lot of aspects. See, first of all, we have to understand there's being a man, then there's being a good man.
Okay.
You can fulfill the role of a man without necessarily being toxic, but not being a good man. You don't have to be courteous to be a man. You have to be courteous to be a decent man. And let's be perfectly honest. There's a time and a place to be very discourteous, even as a good man. And so there's, when I wrote the book, I came up with about, it's been a while since I wrote it, but about 11 or 12 different points that I felt like a guy should try to work towards, and I work towards. I'm not always successful at it, and that's fine too, because part of it, I think part of being a man is trying to recognize your own faults. But I freely admit that I'm pretty biased in this regard. Charlie talked about losing his dad when he was young. Tomorrow actually marks 6 months since my father passed away. And we weren't exceptionally close, but he was a hell of a role model. Vietnam veteran, police officer, stories about him doing stuff as a cop were told to me by other officers, like, him running into a burning building because he heard there was a kid inside. Well, when you tell a small child that, it burns in the psyche a little bit. And so, I value, that mentality highly. I think that's really a key part of being a man to me, is the willingness to do that, the willingness to step through your fear and face the hardship, the possibility of being hurt or killed for another. But again, most people are never really going to be in that position, thank God. It's the thing about it being a man is it's really hard to boil it down to a quick soundbite, because we've had thousands and thousands of years to develop what a man is without it ever being explicitly talked about until very recently. For years, it was, this is just what guys did. There wasn't classes on how to be a man. There weren't books. 100 years ago, if I wrote a book on how to be a man, people would be like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
People, you know how to be a man because you're a man. It's just what you do. It was just a thing. Everyone did it. And obviously you can have entire discussions to why that is. I think Squib kind of touched on a lot of it. But, there's also, again, there's a lot to it, and it's kind of hard to break down into a few minutes. But at the end of the day, it's being all the things that, protect and provide for your family, including being a good role model for, I've tried very hard to be a good role model for my now 1-year-old son of what a man should be, and also a role model for my 11-year-old daughter of what she should expect from a man.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys forget about that. It's not just teaching your kid, your son how to be a man. you got to teach your daughter what she should be expecting. And you do that by modeling it.
Yeah, very, very true. Defense Dad just chimed in with a comment. I'll say this: being a good man and being a good father aren't always the same thing. There are good men out there that aren't good fathers, vice versa. Ideally, he wants to be both. Um, I 100% agree with that. There are some guys that I think are very good men that, I'm kind of glad that they're not fathers, or, they're good men up until the point where it comes to being a father. Now, Tom, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what you were saying earlier about being a good man. I think that if you are a father and you're not a good father, I don't know that I could really qualify that person really as a good man. I mean, a good man kind
I
of has
don't
to
either.
hit on all 8 cylinders, right?
Yeah, I think you can be a good man, and then it turns out you're a train wreck as a dad. And then it turns out that, okay, you weren't as good a man as we thought. There are some people who they project as a good man, and then they neglect their family so that the rest of the world thinks of them as a good man. Well, that's not a good man. That's a guy putting on pretenses.
Yeah.
I think if you are a good man, you have to be a good father, or you have to at least give it your best. You can, let's face it, people are flawed. You can,
Yeah.
there are plenty of mistakes I've made as a dad. I often, my kids swear I'm a good dad, and I'm wondering who's bribing them. But I think you really do have to put in the effort to be a good dad.
Well, and I think that's it too. I mean, sure, everybody who, especially on the first kid, you've never been a dad before. You've only seen the examples that were set for you, and a lot of people don't get that luxury of having a good example set. So yeah, they're definitely in uncharted territory at that point. But I think you hit it on the head there too. The effort makes a difference. You've got to show up, right? You've got to be present and be the best dad that you can be, and own up to your mistakes, learn from them, and do better next time, right? That's part of being a man,
right,
all around.
Yeah, and those mistakes need to be good faith mistakes. You sleep around on your wife and go, well, it was a mistake. No,
it was a bad decision.
Yeah, it was a mistake, but it's not the same thing as I thought I needed to take this new job, and it turned out to be a complete train wreck.
Right.
They're both mistakes, but let's be perfectly honest. One of them's understandable and the other isn't.
Yeah. Well, and one of them is, you had one expectation and reality turned out different. The other one was, if you're any kind of adult at all, you already know the consequences. You should have that as an expectation. You made a bad decision, consequences be damned, and then you paid the price for it. So you're right. There's a definite distinction there. All right, Travis, we'll move over to you. And again, just get your opinion on, what it means to be manly or masculine.
There's been so many good examples that people have listed this evening, a lot of great qualities. And I was fortunate, and my dad is still alive, to have a good father, a strong father, a dad that raised me the right way, to be courteous, be polite, be hardworking, be responsible, be respectful. There was a very positive role model in my life. He worked a lot. My parents worked all the time, but it also taught me to be, independent and responsible myself, to be motivated. To be the breadwinner of the family. My dad was that. My mom worked hard too, but my dad made all the major life decisions about things, purchases and moving and this and that. So I was fortunate to have those things. The thing about being masculine, definition of what masculine is, we've got our own personal definitions of it. A lot of it's influenced by how we're raised. Those male role models in our life, or lack thereof, defines what we know about what we consider masculine, right? So I mean, it's we've got these traditional ideas that we have, and a lot of people maybe can't accept that, or maybe people think it's old fashioned or time to move on. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I feel like I was raised the right way. There's a lot of great qualities I think that a person should have. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, people are mentioning a lot of great things this evening, and I have no choice but to agree with most of them. So yeah.
All right, Pat, we'll give you a chance to chime in here. So the original question is, just in your own words, what does it mean to be manly or to be masculine?
Well, I've heard a lot of good ones. on here, and I don't think I can disagree with a single one of
And
them.
feel free to reiterate though if you want to make sure that you
Yeah,
this is your words, not everybody else's.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff though. I'll reiterate that everything that I've heard so far has been really good. But one of the biggest things, I will put it this way, speaking from experience, is when something happens or a mistake has been made, uh, owning up to it. Like most of the people out there know that I am divorced and got remarried. Um, Another one of those things is still taking responsibility for that first child. You know, whether, divorced or not, or didn't even get married. I mean, being there for that other child, even though you may have another family that actually lives with you and there's another one apart from you, is doing your damnedest and staying in communication with that other child and just being there, whether it's on the phone or, in person, and doing your fiscal responsibility as far as, and physical and mental responsibility.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's that, and that brings me back down to the finer point of just owning up to your mistakes, and just like what Tom said earlier, everybody's flawed. Everybody's going to make mistakes, whether we want to or not. It doesn't matter the situation or whatever's going on. That's the biggest thing, is just owning up to your mistakes and just owning it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I ever make mistakes. That's as foreign to me as when Squibb said that Hallmark movies aren't real, which also doesn't compute in my mind. That's gonna wreck my whole existence.
Not
You're going
true,
back to
John. You
the
make mistakes. You
town in
invited
New-
me.
Wait a minute. Sandhills, you're going back to the town in New England, the town you grew up in, at Christmas to save the bakery from getting repossessed, and then you run into your ex-girlfriend, and her mom tries to matchmake you, and you guys fight the whole time, and then at the end you bake cookies with her and you kiss and walk off in the sunset with
Lord,
Santa
here we
Claus
go.
That is exactly how Sandhill's sweetheart and I got back together.
at a bakery.
Yeah, except for none of that. It was exactly the same. Other than all of that, it's exactly the same story. So
Same with me and my wife.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
exactly the same, except completely different.
Except for it was 100% different. But other than that, it's all the
Yeah.
same. No. No, I was serious about I've never made a mistake. That's also 100% not true. But no, I mean, you guys that's why I wanted to go last, because I'm the host and I get to choose that. There's not a whole lot that hasn't been said. I don't think there's anything that's been said that I disagree with. I'm going to throw out there that to be a manly man, a true masculine man, you've got to have some integrity, which maybe that word gets kind of thrown around a lot, and I think watered down a lot. Integrity is pretty simple. It means when there's nobody looking and nobody will ever find out, you still choose to do the right thing. That's what integrity means to me. But again, what's the right thing? That's something that we've agreed upon as society. Those of you that worship, especially in a Christian faith, I mean, we have a book that kind of gives us a few pointers too, how a man should be. But yeah, being responsible for yourself, owning up to making a mistake, working hard to fix what you can, and another thing though too is just there's a level of maturity there. It's very rare to see a truly masculine 14-year-old boy, right? Because the maturity level's not there. They don't know how to handle everything that life is throwing at them, aside from the fact that now their body's getting flooded with hormones that they've never had before. They've got these urges to do things that they've never had the urge to do before, and not only sexual in nature, although that does happen as well. But I mean, boys, when the testosterone starts flooding the body, you get this natural, I don't know if aggression is the right word, but I don't know a better word for it. there's got to be an outlet for just having that buildup of testosterone. Boys fight with each other, they wrestle with each other, they play physical games with each other. I mean, men are hardwired to be the more of a doer in the grand scale. We've got to get out and hit each other with sticks or turn
We're
sticks
aggressive.
yeah, aggression. That's exactly what it is. And so, and it's a natural trait, and anybody who doesn't recognize that, or just refuses to acknowledge it, male or female, you're denying nature. You're denying science. I mean, it's a proven fact. You have to know that about men. If you want to understand men, we're pretty simple. If we're not hungry or horny, we probably need a nap. I mean, those are pretty much the three moods we have, right? But I mean, honestly, if you're dealing with a man and you don't understand uh, basic man instincts, then you're going to be very disappointed in life. You're going to find out that nobody's going to live up to what you think they should live up to if you can't deal with the basic things of that extra aggression, the competitiveness, the need to build something up so that we can destroy it and build it up again better. I mean, that's part of being male, if not being a man exactly. Everybody on this panel at one point was a little boy. And I don't know, how it was growing up for the five of you, but I didn't have how do I say this? I had a close friend growing up, not geographically close. I grew up out in the country. It was, a mile and a half, 2 miles over to his house. And when we were super little, we didn't get a chance to hang out a lot because, somebody had to drive us to the other person's house. We got older and, horses, four-wheelers, whatnot. And then we could eventually cars, we could do stuff together at that point. But I spent a lot of time not having somebody in the house to wrestle with, to get some of that out. And it's just, that's the thing that I remember as being a kid. What did I do? I went outside and did stuff, went out in the trees and broke sticks against tree trunks. And I was aggressive, not in a toxic way. But if you're gonna be a man and you're gonna be masculine and you're gonna avoid the toxicity part of it, you have to know that about yourself. And not everybody has the same levels of aggression, but you have to remember that you're wired as a man. You're wired to do certain things, and most of us kind of are. We overall as a society and throughout history, it's men that have built up the great civilizations. Could the women have done it? Probably. They don't have the physical strength that the men do, as a generalization. Yes, there are some women that are stronger than most men. There are some men that are weaker than most women, but overall, as a gender, men got the bigger muscles, right? That's why it makes sense that men are the ones who have built the marvels of the world, the pyramids, the skyscrapers, things like that. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with a man that doesn't go out and build something with his hands, but you're more likely to see a man build something with his hands than a woman go out and construct something with her hands, right? Boys growing up, boys don't have the same ability as girls do at a young age to sit still and listen. That's something that, again, if you're raising a small human, you need to know. You need to know that the girls, not all of them, but most of the time, girls are content to sit in one spot and do something for a while, whether it's a craft or coloring or playing with their dolls or whatever it is. And boys will get bored pretty quick, and pretty soon we are trying to punch holes in the paper with the crayon or whatever it is. And that's another thing that you need to know about the differences in the sexes. It's just boys need to get up and do stuff, and again get some of that energy released. Now, as we grow into men, again, a responsible man is going to find outlets for that so that it doesn't come out as toxicity. If you don't know how to deal with your aggression, I can understand where some guys that don't know, I don't want to say don't know any better. If I say don't know any better, it's not a pass. I'm not giving them an excuse. I'm saying some guys don't know any better or don't care enough to do any better. And they let their aggression out in the toxic ways. They're creepy or they're abusive, they're physically abusive, emotionally, whatever. But that's part of being a man, is just knowing that there is a difference. And I'm sorry, I'm not, as you said, I'm sorry. I'll take that back. I'm not sorry. I don't apologize for saying that there's a difference between men and women. There is. It's glorious. It was designed that way. We're not supposed to be women. Women aren't supposed to be men. Like Squib said, everybody brings something to the table or to the relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or whatever. Women do stuff that men can't do. Men do stuff that women can't do. If you don't acknowledge that and recognize it and harness it, I don't think you're very masculine as a man that way either. If you grow up saying that, well, anything that I can do, all the women can do as well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, number one, let's see who can write their name in the snow.
That would be skill, though. That would be something. That would be bragging rights if she did.
That's true. I would respect it.
Yeah.
I'd respect it. But there's really a evolutionary psychology aspect to this, because when you look way, way back at our distant past, our distant ancestors, the women, the guys who got the women were the warriors, the mighty hunters, the aggressive, right?
The capable ones.
They were the ones. Those are our ancestors. Every one of us. The most pathetic guy has an ancestor who is an absolute badass somewhere along the lines, because a lot of lines, a lot of lineages died out in the prehistoric era because the guys couldn't win the women. So aggression got kind of selectively bred for, in a way, for guys. And for women, it was different things. And, it's like even stuff like gender roles comes about because of stuff like that. You talked about, the guys were the ones who built the monuments. Part of that was physical. The other part was, when you're giving birth to a kid every year, you're probably going to have to stay close to the house. Because you couldn't run to the store and get formula. That's where a lot of that stuff came from. That's something that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge.
And also, I mean, you're having a kid every year and a half, something like that. It's going to be a long time before the oldest one grows up enough to help. And if the dad is out doing the things that bring
foraging,
food to the table,
hunting, gathering,
foraging, constructing, whatever it is, right? Then she's left at home to raise these babies, right? Now, is that right, wrong, or indifferent? I mean, I say it's right. I love the traditional family structure. I was raised in a home where, when I was super small and I wasn't able to go out and help do ranch stuff yet, then my dad was out doing whatever and mom was at the house. And when he came in, she would try to get an idea from him when he would be in at night, so she knew when to start cooking supper, stuff like that. Did that make her weak? No, that made her badass at her role, right? She did everything she could to honor her husband and to make his life, easier. That's why we take a partner in life, right?
Right. But what those roles started out as is just a logical division of labor that just became traditional.
Yes.
John,
that men are women are subservient. No, it just kind of made sense at the time. And well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And does it still make sense today? Well, look at the success rates of the kids that come from that versus the success rate. And this is not intended to reflect on anybody on the panel or out there listening, but those of you that grew up in broken homes or didn't have both a male and a female figure in your life, if you're successful,
Charlie.
then good on you, Charlie. Because Charlie's the exception that proves the rule.
Let's define success, shall we?
You're not a felon. Hey, there's that.
Dude, that wall behind you is pretty
True.
sweet. Look at that.
Right?
That's success right there. Look at that. You
Those kids
procreated,
hanging on
you
the
put
wall there.
spawn in this world, you're continuing your DNA, your lineage is going to continue. You've got
you've done
awards and accolades, and
you've done a good job.
You were totally
like
on
Ray
Camden Company.
Charles.
Good enough as a parent to you didn't raise felons for so far
this is
anyway.
true.
So there's
So
that,
far.
right? No,
Yeah.
but in all honesty,
Amen.
if you look across even in our own country alone, look at just the success rate of the people that grew up in either a 2-parent household, or at the very least they had somebody there to fill that role in their life. Like Defense Dad didn't grow up in a 2-parent house, but he had somebody, both a mother figure and a father figure in his life, versus the people that grow up in single parent homes that, especially, if it's a single mother house and there's no male role model at all. Where is a boy supposed to learn how to be a man? It's going to go back to his buddies. It's going to go back to society. We're going to have movies. We're going to have music,
TV, rap videos. Yeah.
right? Yeah, rap videos. Perfect way to learn how to be a
Violent
man.
video
Just
games.
Watch rap videos.
Uh,
That's all you need in life.
Nowadays,
honestly-
YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But we need to have more videos on YouTube about how to be a man, right?
Dude, there's tons of channels about that. You just don't watch them.
Yeah, you're right. I don't. Because
They're very entertaining, by the way, because you get to see how pathetic some people out there really are. Some things remind me of things I used to do when I was younger. I'll admit I was masculine with everything except relationships. And then one day I said, screw it. I'm just going to be masculine with everything. Things got better after that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the perfect formula, but when I hear some of the stories, it's like, yep, went through that. Yep, went through that. But then there's other stuff that I hear is like, wow, dang, are you really that dumb? Yep. So for me, it's entertaining. But for a young man, especially without a positive male role model, some of that stuff is actually really educational. And if you think about it, if enough people change their behaviors, choose to change their behaviors, they're not forced, they're not enticed, they're not coerced, they choose to change their behaviors, and they're on one side of the fence. The other side, if they want to interact with them, they're going to have to learn how to play ball, if you know what I mean. So I think that being able to say, look, we have our differences. This is just the way it is. There's nothing wrong with that. But the people who are trying to take some other thing and turn it into where we don't have any differences, they're missing the point. They're missing biology. They're just, the science denier crap. They're science deniers. There's nothing wrong with being a man. There's nothing wrong with being a woman. I think that it's just, I think that young men today just don't have as many positive male role models. That's all.
That's very true.
Absolutely. So there's a couple things I want to chime in about before I get to that. I bought Tom's book. Tom's book is a whopping $4 on the Amazon. And if you don't, it's an electronic version. So if you don't have a Kindle, you can get the Kindle app on your phone. So everybody ought to go buy that. I'm very much into buying books. I like buying books more than I like reading books. Don't take it the wrong way, Tom.
Yeah. I get the money either way. I don't care.
You got my money, right? Exactly.
Win or lose, he gets paid. He's a bookie, bro. He's a bookie, no pun intended, right? Win or lose, don't matter.
Right.
Whether you like it or not, he gets paid, brother.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So one of the books that I got when my divorce was falling apart, I found this book called "Hold On to Your Nuts." And your nuts are non-negotiable, unalterable terms. And it was a lot about how to have a better relationship, how to take lead as the man, instead of saying, instead of asking your wife or your girlfriend or both, asking them what they want to do. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to have this for dinner? Do you want to have that for dinner? It would say things like, you plan a date for your wife and tell her, look, Friday night, be ready for, don't tell her what she's doing, or don't tell her what you're doing. Say, listen, Friday night, you need to dress up. You need to put on a nice dress and nice shoes and look pretty and smell pretty. Or if you're going to go if you're going to go bowling, wear something relaxed and more comfortable, and you make the plans and go out and do things. And they said women appreciate this much more because you're doing the masculine thing by taking the lead and saying, hey, listen, here's what we're doing. I'm making some decisions. I'm not going to ask you what we're going to have. Maybe I'll give you a couple of choices, but take the lead on a lot of things. And I will say this, I told someone else about this yesterday. The one thing that I remember was when the name calling begins, the argument is over.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. I'm going to try this. And my wife and I were back and forth and back and forth. And she called me an a-hole and I shut down. I I went back to working on my computer. I just ignored her and she walked away. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that worked. Then she came back and re-engaged, called me something else, and I was like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," and then she walked off. So what it did was I took the power back from her where she didn't have she wanted the power to end the discussion. And she wanted to drop a bomb and leave. And I just ignored it. Like when she called me an a-hole, I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. And that was a really big moment for me to do something as simple as when the name calling begins, the argument's over. There was something else I was going to say, but I forgot.
I've also heard that in an argument, the first one to call somebody else a name loses too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the exact same principle.
Or an argument between two men, the first one to throw a punch loses.
There we go.
So
hey, yeah, John, let's get into the idea of toxic masculinity and how that's just a myth, because I think that it's one of those terms that gets thrown out there a lot. I feel like it's something that was created to destroy masculinity in general. That's something we traditionally see as being masculine. Let's
do that because I want to spend some time tonight. I want to call out those toxic traits because I want to dispel the myth that is what masculinity looks like.
Yeah, toxic traits are not masculine. Let's just throw that out there right now. Yeah, self-destructive habits, abusive habits.
If somebody's truly masculine, then he's not toxic. And if somebody is toxic, then he's not being masculine. So again, I want this to be something that not only guys can walk away from, but I want this to be a discussion that even the ladies can get something out of, especially the ladies that have not yet, you say it tongue in cheek, but the ladies that haven't yet settled for a guy, and are still looking for that right fit. So let's throw out some of the stuff and call out that toxic behavior. So Travis, I'll just let you lead it off since you brought that up there.
Again, being abusive, physically abusive towards your spouse because it makes you feel better about yourself or because you think you need it to be the man of the house. Being physically abusive, in my opinion, is not masculine. That's being an abuser. Okay, that's not how I was raised. I was not raised to hit my wife or to, and I'm not saying don't discipline your children. I'm not saying be firm, but I'm just saying that I think that's one of the things right there. So the reason why I say this is because little boys, little kids play rough and tumble, bumping elbows, wrestling, right? Playing army as kids. That's just things that boys do. And to say you can't do that because that's toxic. Is it really? I mean, just this competitive nature that kids have when they're growing up. One wants to be the leader. One wants to be the supreme one on top, so to speak, right? I mean, that's just the nature of children. Let's just to tell them they can't do that, to make them repress those feelings. I don't feel that's really healthy. Encouraging your kid to go beat people up because that's what men do. I don't agree with that either. But defending yourself, standing up for yourself, standing up for your family, I think this is probably a good thing for people to know, because there are people that will say, well, you're just being a chauvinistic pig and you're just being whatever, I think that people need to understand that from our perspective, what's masculine is not toxic and vice versa. So I'd say, first of all, just being abusive is not considered masculine, in my opinion.
For sure. And I just want to throw out too, before we keep going, I mean, the term chauvinistic pig has, again, there are some people that are the epitome of that. But even I can remember when that came out back in the 80s, that it was really popular when I first started hearing it. Even that in itself is, that's become a weaponized term, and it's become more of a catch-all, and people get called that when it doesn't apply.
Have you looked at the original definition of chauvinistic? I just, for the heck of it, looked up the word, and it actually meant to be ultra patriotic.
Yeah,
its
yeah,
origin. It was named after some
yeah,
French guy that
yeah.
you know.
Being a chauvinist is nothing at all to do with being a guy that's a jerk.
But somehow it's been switched over to being misogynistic and for some reason. I mean,
It has
words
been,
evolve
yes.
and change. I get it, but yeah.
Yeah. Misogyny in general, I would say, is toxic. But again, now there's a whole nuanced conversation about what's truly misogynist and what's actually, like Tom said, division of labor that just makes logical sense, and stuff like that. So not everything, and I'm here to tell you, people, there may or may not be such a thing as a patriarchy out there, but not everything in life that isn't the way that you think it ought to be. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's patriarchal or misogynistic in nature. Some things just work better. And honestly, I'm going to throw this one out there too before we keep going on the toxicity. If you're not feeling fulfilled in your relationship, if you feel like somebody, well, I wanted this guy that's super sensitive, and he's not afraid to cry and all that kind of stuff, which is a whole separate issue. But if he also doesn't know how to change a tire, if he's not willing to be the one to kill the spider for you because you don't want to kill the spider, if heaven forbid you're walking down the street and somebody comes up to mug you, if he doesn't put himself between you and the mugger, then your sensitive guy is just another girlfriend. That is toxic. The not putting others before him, if you're in a relationship and you're truly a masculine man and you're not being toxic, then you know what self-sacrifice is about. You're not afraid to be the protector. Even a masculine kid growing up, don't start fights, don't pick on people. But if you don't have a choice, then make sure you win your fight. And if you see somebody else getting picked on and you don't step in and either try to stop it or fight on their behalf because they don't have the capabilities, again, that's part of being a masculine person growing up. Now, I'm not talking about being nosy and butting into every situation, but if there's an 11-year-old that's got a 5-year-old on the playground down and pinned him down and is punching him, then somebody needs to grab that 11-year-old and pin him down and punch him, let him see what it feels like to be bullied, right? So I want to just kind of throw that kind of stuff out there too. And as I'm calling out toxicity, I see a lot of the things that are toxic are just the men that are willing to debase themselves, that are willing to emasculate themselves because they think that's what the women want these days, because the women think that's what they want these days, because society has drilled into them that being an actual truly masculine male is such a bad thing. So clearly you want to find somebody that's not like that. And then we get again that situation where, why can't I find any good men these days? Well, because you are trying to breed that out of us.
John, if she says she wants you to be sensitive and she wants you to be able to cry in front of her, run, because she's lying. I don't care who she is. I don't care how long you've known her. It's a lie. It is an absolute total lie. That is not what they want, because they will not look at you as a man when you act like that. You go to your guy friends or your dad or some other dude and you have your little breakdown, or you do it by yourself. But you do not do that in front of a woman, is in particular your woman, because she will not look at you as a man. And you might say, well, do you mean I can't have emotions, or I can't be sad, or I can't? No, but it is not a masculine trait to do that sort of thing. They look up to a man as a protector, as a provider, as tough, as strong, as the one who's going to do the dirty work, whether it be killing a spider, opening the pickle jar, or changing the tire in the middle of the night in the blizzard. And when they see weakness, they lose their attraction for us. And that is why being masculine for some guys is really difficult, because they've been told they've got to be sensitive and they've got to cry and they've got to do this and they've got to. That's not what women want. They can say they want that, like I said, Hallmark movies and crap. That's not what they want. But on the flip side, somebody goes, oh, okay, I know I can be a brute and I can be the bully and start the fight and I can, hit my wife and do all these. And that's not it either. And for all the women out there who thinks it's so easy to be a man and it's a man's world, really, honey, it isn't. Okay, it's changed over the decades, and it isn't. It's a very difficult thing to be a man today because you're constantly getting, labeled and things like that. The women in the workplace are trying to change the workplace around, and now it's not he said, she said, it's she said, and that's it. That's the end of it. You could have video evidence that it never happened. Doesn't matter. She said it. You're gone. That's the way it is. So it's very tough.
It's actually happened too.
Yes, but if you think it's just so easy to be a man, if you think it's so easy to, because when you do have that situation where you've got that emotional thing, not being able to show it around a female, or having to tiptoe around the female boss at work, or whatever the heck it is, it makes it very difficult because you're fighting your instincts, or you think you're doing the right thing, but you're really not.
I'm going to only slightly disagree with some of that. And I'm going to say this not as a debate, but just, I have, I'm not the kind of guy that always, completely stoic. I do wear my heart on my sleeve a lot. But when it comes to like crying in front of my wife, there are some things that I've been through that I've really never completely dealt with, and I didn't realize that at the time, but I'm learning more about me now. I do have a great woman in my life who, because of her, I am learning more things about myself too. And I will say this much: when emotions do get the better of me, and I have to break down, there's no place I'd rather be than just the two of us. I don't want anybody else there seeing it, but she's my safe place. And when I let go of the rest of the world, deal with an emotion, tears come out, whatever it is, when she's there, I hope she doesn't see me as weak, but I see her as strong enough to while I'm being in my moment of weakness and I'm letting out emotion, she's there for me, and she's my shelter. And I will say that it's not all the time. That I don't know if either one of us keeps track of how often that's ever happened, but I've been damn thankful when some of this stuff has hit me that I've had her there, and she's been there for me, and hopefully she doesn't see me as weak because I dealt with some stuff that I hadn't dealt with before. That doesn't mean that every time I'm having a bad day that I'm all boo-hoo, tears, everything like that. I'm just, some of that stuff is not. I think that it's toxic to think that men can't ever cry, can't ever show emotions. And I
didn't say you couldn't. I said be careful where you do it, because in certain places you will damage your masculinity or your reputation, or you'll do long-term damage to your relationship.
Sure. But I mean, if you when you lose a parent, and I don't know which one of you on the panel have or haven't. I know some of you have. It sucks, and I don't care how old you are, you're not prepared for that. And everybody deals with stuff their own way, right? But if you don't deal with it when it happens, you will deal with it at some point. You'll be forced to deal with it. And so even just some of that is, just making myself, I guess, feel the feels that I avoided for so long. But that's some of the stuff that's happened, since I've met my wife, and she's been there for me, even though she never got to meet my mom. And so having somebody like that she does bring everything to the table that I don't. And I've been thankful for that. So, I think, and again, Squib, I know this isn't what you meant to say, but I'm just, for myself, I'm going to throw out there that, the belief that men can't be emotional, or that the only emotions that we get are anger and happiness, right? That's usually, to be a man. Yeah, men get angry, men are happy, and that's it. That's all we get. right? Typically in society. So there's something to be said for a man who is strong enough to let those emotions out when the time comes, also strong enough to bottle them up when it's not time. I think that's a lot of it too. But I think it's very toxic to think that, the pendulum is too far the other way, where, you're completely insensitive and you can't empathize, right? I think that being able to empathize is a great masculine trait. Being able to show grace to people is a great masculine trait. You can't do those things if you completely avoid your emotions altogether. So it's not only toxic to be, just a completely emotional basket case, but it's also toxic to be the other direction too. We've got to have that medium ground. So I'm not afraid to cry in certain circumstances in front of anybody. But
Right, like at the end of Field of Dreams, right?
For me, it's always been the end of Gladiator. He just wanted to go home.
Well,
I'm ready. Okay,
for me, it was Star Wars, but that's just because empathy. Chewie didn't get a medal. He was just as capable as everybody else. But
Avengers Endgame.
Chewie got wrong.
Okay,
Spidey.
now Endgame.
Man, what a bunch of woke crap.
Well, these are my heroes that I love. These were men that I look up to that are not here
anymore. Hot in the theater when I watched Endgame, and my eyeballs got a little sweaty. I gotta say,
Braveheart.
My goodness.
No, Braveheart didn't at all. Old Yeller maybe, or where the red fern grows. I won't watch that movie.
Old Yeller.
So speaking of Star Wars, I got to the theater today to go see the Return of the Jedi, the 40th anniversary. And it was great. Got to see it on a big screen again. Got to see it along with my son, and then we went out afterwards and had a beer and caught up and told some good stories. And it was, that's the stuff that's priceless. I had to drive an hour to go meet him, and he's like, "Are you sure? Do you really want to drive that far?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course. I'm up for a good story. Like I'm up for saying, hey, he came out and we went and watched this together." So that's the stuff that you can't replace.
It's awesome. Very cool. All right. So what other toxic traits are out there that are masquerading as masculine?
Well, it kind of goes along with what Travis said with abuse, and that's as opposed to physical, is just like that emotional degrading abuse type, mentality. Really, to me, the poster boy for toxic masculinity is Andrew Tate.
Okay.
Because it's part of his whole shtick is just treat women like crap. That's what makes you a man. And I'm like, no, that's what makes you a child. He's a very, very insecure person, in my opinion, because, if he is exactly who he portrays, I think he's a character myself. But I've known guys who really do that. They think, well, yeah, you just treat women like crap. They'll, that's what they deserve. No, you're an insecure little pest. You're not a man.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head there. That all, if we get down to the root, boil everything else away, it's insecurity.
Okay. I don't think I've ever heard of that name before. Who is that?
Oh, Andrew Tate is a very special person, and I use special in the short school bus sense of the term. He's a guy who has kind of come out. I think he's part of a pushback against the uber feminist that, guys have to be, all these, feminine qualities. And he's like, no, you got to be an alpha male and you've got to, treat women like crap. And, the dude's, flexing about his Lamborghini and all the money he has. And then he made his money doing like webcam porn and stuff, basically just setting up girls to do this that could have done it without him. But, but he also just basically degrades them so that they don't realize they don't need him. Well, he was recently arrested for human trafficking. So, that's always a sign of a quality person.
There's a lot of women that are willing to be degraded if they can land that rich guy, though, too. Because, again, they weren't taught better, right? Mm-hmm. And so
gold diggers.
They mistook that for being truly masculine. and they're willing to
Well-
put up with getting treated like crap as long as he can keep buying them stuff. And
No, they didn't
really-
mistake it for being masculine. They wanted the money because most of them are a bunch of no good gold diggers.
yeah,
Well, actually, what a lot of it is women want security. That's what their genetic, evolutionary psychology has led them towards. And let's be perfectly honest: if you've got millions of dollars in the bank, you've got the fancy cars and the nice houses, you're secure. In their mind, you represent security. That's the reason you would see someone like, was it Claudia Schiffer that was with the singer Seal, who was not an attractive man, but he landed a supermodel. Now she had her own money; she didn't need it, but she equated his success with security.
Mhm.
And so, now don't get me wrong, they're still gold diggers. I'm not saying it's not saying they don't exist, but there's also a lot of women who will just find themselves genuinely attracted to somebody because of their bank account, even if they treat them like crap, because they equate that with security.
Crazy
Yeah,
hot
and
matrix. Crazy hot matrix.
Yeah,
I have known
Yeah.
of
Been
No
there,
matter how much
Travis.
money you got,
been
no matter
there.
how ugly you are, if you got enough zeros in your bank account, there's some ones in front of it. She
That
don't
chick's
care.
a dude.
That's right. That's right. Crazy hot matrix. It's
Oh
so
my gosh.
true. I've been following that.
Now, see,
a
I
lot
got plenty
lately.
of zeros. I got a lot of zeros in my bank account. The problem is they're all after the decimal point.
Right.
Yeah,
They're before the digits. So I had to look up Andrew Tate. I didn't know who he was. I saw a picture of him, and honestly, when I've seen videos of him, I thought it was Mr. Worldwide there, Pitbull. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, I have run into his stuff for a while, but that's just something I've encountered. And to me, his whole shtick is the anti-masculine. He's everything I do not want my son to be.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. He seems like a total a-hole. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think half of it is that it may be a shtick. I think he part of it might be a grift is, hey, I found this niche, and he charges people a lot of money to tell them how to be just like him. So,
Right.
how much of it is, how much can you really make on people? Hey, this is how to be a decent guy. I charge $4.
yeah.
But
You've made
Andrew Tate
eight.
charges a hell of a lot more to show you how to be a jerk.
Right. You made $8 tonight.
But to be fair, women are attracted to a-holes. And the thing is, they do want security, but they'll get with the nice guy who's got the money, who's not going to leave them. And meanwhile, while he's out busting his butt, she's, with some a-hole, and she gets her cake and eats it too. Now, how do you fill the void between two? How do you be the nice guy, the decent guy, the guy who isn't going to cheat on his wife or hit her or anything, but you don't take it to the degree that this guy has? What you do is you follow your instincts, your natural masculine instincts. You can be the provider who doesn't cheat and doesn't beat, but you can be the bad boy too. All these guys in there, I don't know, I didn't have a dad, I don't know. It's a cop-out. Everything you need to know about how to be masculine is between your legs. Just don't fight your instincts. Don't take it to an extreme one way or the other. And that's why I say it's not so easy to be a man. But if you're like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to be nice to women, you're going to get walked on your whole life. And then you go, well, I'm going to be an abuser. Then you're going to be in jail your whole life. That's not. But women are naturally attracted to a-holes. And if you don't believe me, well, I don't know. I can refer you to some good divorce attorneys.
Well, there's a reason why the saying is so.
Look at half of Hollywood.
Yeah, there's a reason why the saying is so prevalent today. Don't mistake my kindness for weakness.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
again, there's been some sort of bastardization, I guess, of what masculine looks like, and being the jerk has taken off because, and I'm not going to speak to what women want because I'm not a woman, and I don't always know what
It'll get you the girl every time.
Well, but I don't know. I'm not wired like that. I don't want the girl that wants me to be a jerk to her all the time.
Squib, continue.
I'm
really
Okay,
making
seriously,
notes.
the one that says she doesn't want the jerk is using you for your resources.
she's not.
Okay, gotcha. All right. No, but
she's not either.
She's
I
got
guarantee it.
ovaries. Trust me. If she ain't doing it now, she'll do it eventually.
You know
But
what
that's
really-
just it. So, and then the guy goes, well, how do I be masculine and find a gal? It's not easy, but it's not impossible either. Like I said, you have to kind of follow your instincts where you're somewhat of a jerk, but you're what did you call me? A night, get used to it, whatever. All right.
Yeah.
But you're also not a criminal either. And she can get her bad boy. She wants her cake and eat it too. She can have her provider and her bad boy. We all have it in our DNA. It's just whether or not you choose to do it. If you're always nice and you're rich, you might think you can just buy her love. Oh, you can, but like I said, while you're working, she's with the jerk. So
Well, what I've always, not always, but what I try to maintain now is that if I'm gonna be a jerk, then I'll be a jerk to anybody else on the planet. But when it comes to her, I don't want anybody being a jerk to my girl, including me. Now I'm not always.
You do you, man. You do
Yeah,
you.
I'm not always successful, and she can tell you that better than I can. But I mean, when it comes to that duality, I've seen guys that were. Oh, let's have a lawnmower going. Anyway, I've seen guys that were complete just a-holes, right? Hard to get along with. They didn't care what anybody thought, what anybody said, which is fine until it came to their wife, and then they were completely different. They were very tender with their wife. Not in a way that was submissive, but just they dropped all of that rough exterior when it came to her. But with anybody else, the rough exterior is what you got. Right now, I don't want to take it to an extreme, but if I'm gonna be a jerk to somebody, Lord, let it be anybody but her. She's hitched her wagon up to, I gave her my last name, and she doesn't deserve that from me. She'll get that from the rest of the world. It's my job to protect her in this life. And how can I be a protector if I'm heaping on what the world's given her? But then the world, again, I don't mind being a little bristly back to the world, because the world can go suck an egg, right? I think that's a little bit in my mind. And we've talked about this. She doesn't disagree with me, or if she does, she hasn't said so. But going back to being masculine, know when to be tender, right? Be nice until it's time not to be nice, like Patrick Swayze said in Roadhouse.
The
But
town Dalton.
but at the same time, also know when to be nice. Be an a-hole until it's time to not be an a-hole. And you got to know that too. And if you're going to raise little humans, then you got to learn when to not be an a-hole with them as well, right? If you want them to be well adjusted. So yeah, security is a great thing. And I don't know anybody that doesn't want security, but if you're looking at traditional family values and traditional gender roles, yeah, any woman that isn't looking for security, sure. I mean, I don't know what she would be looking for then. I don't know what any adult would be looking for besides security first, right? How do you get secure? Well, you've got to have, a way to guarantee that you're going to have food, shelter, all that good stuff, right? Income in today's society, we have to have trade stock, and that's usually cash or some digital form thereof. But ultimately, what it comes down to is we all want to be secure, right? That's what we're all looking for. So how do we go about that? Well, there are times as a man that my security gets threatened, and I've got, a house. And let's go back to, caveman days or whatever. I've got my cave, right? But somebody comes along that thinks that they like my cave and that they should have it, and I shouldn't. Well, as a man, it's my job to protect my cave and everybody in it from that other guy who wants to kill us all and throw us out and take our cave, right? Or our woolly mammoth steaks or whatever that we've got cooking inside the cave. So ultimately, that hasn't changed. The roles, however antiquated people might want to claim they are these days, the roles are there. Somebody's got to be a protector, and families work better when there's a protector and a nurturer. And men are crap at nurturing. I don't care who you are. There may be that occasional man who's a little bit better at it than most men, but he's not going to be nearly as good as most women who come by it naturally. And it's the same thing with being protective. There are women out there that are protective, or they mean to be protective, and they'll talk a protective game, but when it comes down to it, what is this 5 foot nothing 110-pound woman going to do to protect kids from a 200-pound mugger that's going to come along, unless she has a
Well,
firearm and she's leveled the playing field.
yeah,
So
you get that those women are talking about like being, I'm a mama bear.
Yeah.
Look, it's one thing to get in the principal's face because they didn't deal with the bully, and I respect that. But getting in the principal's face is a lot different than the 300-pound former high school linebacker that wants your wallet.
right now,
Little
again,
different.
if she's a true mama bear, she's going to pull that handgun out and put it in his face and say, back off, or you're not going to like what happens. Right. So, yeah, there are true mama bears out there that are better prepared to deal with situations than most. Right. But again, most women have to step outside their comfort zone to become that true mama bear. And I've known of a few, but, that wasn't where they were until life put them there. They didn't naturally come by it. They had to seek that out. And a man who is, very nurturing has to seek that out. We don't come by that naturally either. And so until you're put in a position where you've got to be tender and nurturing with somebody, as a man, that's kind of, again, that foreign, uncharted territory. Charlie, you grew up in a house full of women, and then you've raised a woman. I mean, you probably are just not genetically, but situationally, better prepared than most guys at being tender and dealing with, raising a young woman. But was it easy for you?
Oh, I sent her to her mom's. I'm joking. So, so my deal is this: I wanted to be a good influence on my kids. End of story. Like, that's it. I don't want my kids to be jerks. I don't want them to be chumps. I want them to work. I want them to be responsible. I want them to get good grades and do well in school, have a job, all that kind of crap. I want my kids to be good people. When and part of that, like, I didn't have that as a dad, and honestly, I spent a lot of time thinking about whatever, analyzing and overanalyzing this, and saying, if my dad had lived, how would my life be different? How would I be different? And would I be okay with that versus what I am now? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like the whole butterfly effect. If this didn't happen, then maybe I wouldn't have done this, and this wouldn't have led me to this, and this wouldn't have led me to that, and all that kind of stuff. And that's fun stuff to think about while you're having a drink. But what really one of the things that really helped me was when I was going through my divorce. I had a friend of mine, and she was telling me, she said, listen, here's what you need to do for your kids. You need to be a rock. She's like your kids need to be you, being solid and always there for them and always dependable for them. And they said eventually you're gonna, the kids are gonna find out your mother's crazy, but just need to be a rock. And that was one of the things that my friend told me this. It was 12 years ago, 12 or 13 years ago, and everything is be a rock, be solid, be a rock, be solid. Like, when the kids get mad at you for something when they're 14, 13, 12, whatever, in those teenage years, just be a rock. Like, be solid with things. And I think it's really paid off well, in that I'm going to be who I am, and I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to be gentler for my daughter. I'm not going to be harder on my son. I'm going to be the same all the time. And sometimes you're in a good mood, sometimes you're in a bad mood, sometimes you're pissed off, sometimes you're happy, whatever. Just be a rock. And that was really important to me, and I think that was a big influence on maybe how things ended up getting through the teenage years with kids and with daughters and whatnot. And I was always one of the guys I was always the guy that said, listen, here's the deal. Call me if you need me. Like, end of story. If you're a teenager and you're at someone's party and someone's drinking and they're going to drive home, call me. Call me. Like, you're my responsibility. I have to take care of you. no matter what I'm doing, call me. You know, I had one. This is kind of funny. The date of my my daughter's high school graduation. She went to a couple of parties. She may have had too much to drink. My ex-wife called me up. My ex-wife was whatever. She was at home enjoying a couple of glasses of wine herself. I was out for dinner at her friend's house, and I was drinking as well. So I get a call from my daughter's boyfriend. He's like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Cook, Sophia's really not feeling well." I get a call from my ex-wife, and she's like, "So, like, Sophia's not really doing well, and I've had a couple glasses of wine." I'm like, "You know what? I've had a half a dozen drinks. I'll be the responsible one, and I will go pick up our daughter, and I will bring her home." And I'm like, "This is what you got to do. I'm not going to leave my daughter someplace. My ex-wife doesn't want to drive. I'm gonna be the one that's had a couple drinks. I know what my limit is, and I was within my limit of being able to control myself, and I went and picked her up and brought her home. I like no big deal. Not it is what it is. You got to be responsible for your stuff, and yeah, I just needed to be a rock. That's all. Good
Well,
time.
dependability is another great masculine trait.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's what being a rock was. It's if you need to if the kids need something, you got to be there.
Yep.
You know?
All right. I'm going to go through some of the comments that I haven't really covered much in the chat, but I did flag a few of these comments that I can pull up here. So these range all the way back from kind of the beginning. So we'll just go through some of these. Clint out there, best screen name ever. I just can't say it fast. Clint Taurus. You have to say it slow like that, or else you get a strike.
Taurus. Like Taurus
I
firearms.
respect the hell out of that name. I respect the hell out of it.
Best screen name ever. I see young guys raised by their mothers all the time that have no respect for anyone and absolutely no emotional control. Now, that doesn't necessarily come from being raised by a single mom, as again, there is probably more likely that there was no male role model, or the male role model that they did have, the male influence was rap videos, right? Or the guys that make the rap videos. That doesn't mean that it only happens in black families, mind you. I'm saying a lot of us white boys grew up watching rap videos too.
Sure, you did.
Rapping out to I did. My dad hated it.
We were saturated with it in the
why I
90s.
did
We
it.
were the biggest. We were the ones that bought all the music that
that's
you
true.
know. Seriously, the bulk of it was urban
You
white
guys
kids
were
that thought
still
they
listening to bluegrass music back then.
Well, we had
okay.
MTV, and we were at the
Motley
mercy of
Crue.
the labels for being pushed on us.
We
so.
might have not got rap music until Travis and I were both in our 30s, but Nebraska did finally get rap music, so you just chill.
We had MTV in the mid 90s. I bought
Dude, we had all kinds of good stuff
Snoop Dogg and NWA
in the
and
last
2 Live
10 years.
Crew
We
and all
found
these
out
other
about-
positive influences. You
we
know,
found out about Kool and the Gang.
who
We found out about Run
that's not
DMC finally.
You
Right.
guys got
Music.
Earth, Wind, and Fire last week, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Dude, no, that
I
was
was listening
actually,
to Too Short
next
and
week.
you know, Tech
Oh,
Nine.
yeah.
And
We're not getting them until
Holiday Inn.
Say
we'll get Earth, Wind, and Fire. I
My
think we won't get those until
Grandmaster
September.
Pat, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Waka waka waka.
Squib Dog. Used to listen to Squib Dog and
Squid Doggy Dog.
John Dre and, you know.
behind off right now.
That's right. DJ Charlie Charl, right? Yeah.
See,
Right?
I'm feeling old because I'm from the era of Motley Crue and Bon Jovi.
that was the thing with MTV when we were growing up. You know, they do
we'll
the
get
top
those
20
in
video
10 more
countdown.
years.
It could be Snoop Dogg on one video, and then Pearl Jam, and then Motley Crue, and then you know
It's true.
Alice in Chains, and then you know it's
Okay, over on the Facebook side, Sean Hopkins says a manly man should have rules to follow, be accountable, be positive input on your family, live as an example to your family, be someone your family can look up to, be the anchor that holds your family together, accept change, and show the positives in all life's activities. And honestly, if
Well
I
said.
had led with that comment, we would have just ended the show.
that's a
He
mic
said
drop
one of the-
comment of the night right there. So
He said one of
Yeah,
the key
I-
traits: be accountable.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is sadly lacking in today's society,
Exactly.
which lack of accountability is very
record-
toxic.
For the record, he put my entire book in that paragraph.
I was gonna say he wrote the teaser for the inside cover of your book. You know, he wrote that.
should've.
Yeah, that's it.
I
That's
wanna
how you
steal it.
lure.
I want
Boom,
to steal it, actually.
It's-
go put a 5-star review on Amazon and just put that there and say this
There you
wisdom
go.
will be found in this book, and boom,
Right.
bestseller, New York
It's-
Times.
He,
And then
he's got,
suddenly, being a man's going to be the new thing that everybody wants to do, and they're going to look up to guys like Tom to lead seminars and instruction, and you know, it's going to replace
Right,
Tony
so
If there's
Robbins.
a paycheck, I'm down.
Yeah,
Right,
there you
so-
go. There you go.
Tom's
Okay.
Tom's got that paragraph, and then the rest of it's a coloring book.
Yeah. It's like Yehuda Reamer's bullet points book.
You got
There's
it.
the forward and then there's the blank pages. Jamie Brown says being a man is to respect people and teach your kids how to act as a respectful person, no matter who they are, and just teach them life lessons, good and bad. Yes, especially if you are tasked with raising human beings, then you need to teach them the world's not always great, but they also need to know how to deal with that, right? Defense Dad says I build my own furniture, fix my own car, things like that. But I couldn't tell you who played the damn Super Bowl because I just don't care. That's one of the things I wanted to get back to that you said, Charlie, about you don't do sports, and does that make you less of a man? No, absolutely it doesn't. You don't have to be into sports to be a man, just like you don't have to be into cars. You don't have to be into woodworking or things like that. We all of us here on this panel are into guns, right? We have that in common. But at the same time, I'm into running my mouth on the internet too, right? And advocating for the Second Amendment, which is different than guns. And that honestly, that takes up a lot of my time. So does some technology stuff. But Travis is more of a car guy than I am, and Defense Dad is too. When it comes to that, and everybody's got stuff that they like. I like guns and some stuff, and Travis likes guns and some stuff, and some of it overlaps and some of it doesn't. But honestly, if Travis and I were into completely different stuff, knowing him like I do, we'd still be buds because I respect the hell out of Travis. He's a good guy. He's my friend. He's been there for me a time or two. And ultimately that's what it comes back to is he's an accountable, dependable person. We talk about qualifying a good man versus being just a man. I'm going to go out further, and there are other qualifications that you can have, whether you're a good father or a good, sports athlete or whatever. There's a good man in a fight, right? Or a good man in a storm, as the old saying goes. Right. So he might have a lot of shortcomings in his life, but if he's dependable, stalwart, and doesn't get doesn't get all flustered when life hits, when a storm hits, that's what being a good man in a storm is, right? Just being able to take a situation and go with it and still make the best of it and get out the other side. A good man in a foxhole, right? Might be a complete jerk, but if he's a good shot, knows how to conserve ammo, and there's a chance that we survive this night, then that's who I want. If I was in some sort of a foxhole situation, I want a good man in a foxhole. You're right. Otherwise, there's people that are just good all around at being a man. They can fix anything, they can salvage any situation. I mean, the MacGyver type dudes. There's a lot of different aspects of being, whether you're a good man or not, you can be good at a lot of different things, but you don't have to be good at all the things. A good man doesn't have to be good at all the things. And if you're not into sports, I don't think that makes you any less of a man than if you're not into cars. Or heaven forbid, I think there's possibly there's some good men out there that aren't into guns, which again doesn't compute. That's kind of like finding out that Lifetime movies aren't real.
I don't know those people.
I don't associate with those people.
No, it's true. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of good guys out there that aren't into guns, right? But they're into other stuff, like whatever they're into. I don't know those guys. Don't hang out with very many of them, but yeah, that's definitely something that sports thing. I just wanted to get that out there. That not knowing who won the Super Bowl or not knowing, who had the most baskets in last year's World Series on the ice. I don't know, right? It's just that doesn't matter if you don't know that stuff.
Oh, as a sports fan, though, that's making me cringe.
Not knowing how many quarters are in a soccer game. I mean, these things are normal,
Okay.
Not knowing how many halves are in a football game,
Exactly. So there was a guy that played for the Red Sox. It was Nomar Garciaparra. It was the late 90s. I was playing in a band in Boston, and he came in one night, and I knew enough about sports to know his last name was Garcia. And so I went up to say hi to him, and I said, "Hey, it's Antonio Garciaparra." The only thing I could come up with Garcia was Antonio. I'm like, hey, it's Antonio Garcia Parra. And he's like, yeah, whatever, man. I'm trying to walk away.
That's awesome. Well, don't mind me talking
Cringe.
about. I'm just a little bitter because there will be a new Stanley Cup champion this year. My beloved Avalanche got knocked out in round 1, defending champs. So I'm bitter. My sports season is done now until
Stanley Cup, is that
football.
something to do with tools? The yellow
Yes.
tools? Stanley
No,
Cup.
it's to do with drinking.
Oh, okay. No, I swear to God, every time somebody talks about hockey, it's Stanley Cup playoffs. It doesn't matter what month it is. Every month is Stanley Cup playoffs to a non-hockey person. And it's like NASCAR. It never ends.
Hockey's like a 13-month season, man.
It is. It literally is. Like Stanley Cup playoffs are every time I'm, hey,
No, they have a very restful off season, both weeks of it.
both weeks of it. Yeah. I swear to God, man.
Right. Anyway, all right. So a couple other comments here before we wrap this up. Burnaby Sanchez says, my friend brought up his daughter by himself. You talk about a scary woman because she's just like her father. So I guess there's something to be said for that too. I did, for those of you that are looking for Tom's book out there, the Kindle version, I did put a link to it on all 3 platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble as well. So that link is out there in the chat. You can find that and go find that book if you guys want to find that.
Yeah,
and thank you in advance. Yeah, and thank you in advance for contributing to my children's college fund.
Right. Robert Cruz Jr. says toxic masculinity is a guy with a lumberjack beard who can't change a tire. I don't know if I feel attacked or not at that one.
I think it's where at our age we don't give ourselves a hernia trying to lift the wheel.
On this panel have beards.
I don't think that's a lumberjack beard that you got going on.
I don't know that toxic
skinny pants man bun that can't change a tire. There you go.
Toxic masculinity doesn't necessarily always. I mean, having a beard and a man bun doesn't necessarily make you toxic. All right. Now I'm saying that there's a pretty good chance of it.
That makes you a CZ
in the
owner.
Same way that a female.
Oh.
Hey, I got a CZ. I'm into coffee.
The same way that
I'll try skinny jeans someday.
a female having blue hair and a piercing through the septum of her nose, I assume, I make a prejudgment that we probably aren't going to get along and agree on a lot of topics, because that's typically what the people that disagree with me on most topics tend to look like these days, right? Now, I'll give anybody the benefit of the doubt until they start talking, and then it's usually pretty easy to tell right away. But but
John, I mean, have you seen somebody broke down on the side of the road and go, "Hey, you lumberjack, come over here and change this tire"?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Nobody here has a lumberjack beard. Nobody here has a lumberjack beard. Remember, I worked with Cam Edwards.
True. That's true. That's
a beard, guys,
and that's okay. I work all hard.
Yeah,
I work all night and
for those of you that don't know what Cam Edwards looks like, his beard is big enough to conceal like an A2 style AR-15.
He's got a foul in there.
If someone hasn't seen Cam's beard, they should tune into Riding Shotgun with Charlie. I did a show.
Which episode is that?
I can't remember which one it was.
You don't just remember them all off the top. When you get that many episodes, it is kind of hard to keep the numbers straight. I get it.
It was a couple months ago. I put the show up with Cam.
He has the most glorious beard in the Second Amendment community.
Now here's one last thing I want to harp on, and Squib put this one up. I've had women want me for my resources and women want me for my masculinity. Getting chicks is easy. And here's the good part. Just don't forget who you are in the process. Another masculine trait is a man knows who he is. He knows what he's about. He knows what he stands for, and he knows what he stands against. And that is something
the hardest trait.
What's that?
That can actually be the hardest part too.
Right. But in these days, it's very difficult for the next generation of men that are being raised right now to, number one, they have to go out on a limb to take a stand for or against anything, right? Because everything's supposed to be so fluid now. And you get, you can get cancel culture these days just by taking a stand. And, taking that chance is, they're getting told that you don't want to do that. You don't want to speak out. So many people are so confused about who they are But again, that is hand in hand, and I don't know which one's cause and which one's effect, but I do see a correlation between that and the decline of truly masculine men in our society. Right? So we've got all these people that are confused. They don't really know who they are. And I can tell you from experience that living your life, not knowing exactly who you are and trying to be who you think that other people want you to be, whether it's your family, your parents, or trying to be the guy that you think women want you to be instead of just being the guy that you are, it sucks. And it doesn't work. I can tell you that. I've got 2 divorces to prove it. Right. And
But along the same lines, though, knowing who you are and being proud of who you are, except you don't need validation from anybody. A man doesn't need validation from anybody else. That's a female trait. So it's not just about your relationship with your woman, your girlfriend, fiance, wife. It's also your friends and the people you surround yourself with. If they want you to be something else, to be in their circle, kick
Right.
them to the curb the same way you'd kick her to the curb. And that's what a man can do. And that's not toxic. Somebody might call it toxic because they're like, oh, they don't want to be my friend anymore. Or he dumped me because I asked for, I won't even get into it. That is a man standing up and being a man. And that's not toxic. That's just being masculine. So it's not just about your woman. It's about the people you have in your life. And your value as a man, as a person. And if somebody else wants you to change something that you don't want to change, you have to want it. If you don't want to change it, or they're making it a condition, you need to make a decision. And a man can go, I don't need anybody.
you can, yeah. I don't think that's a very fulfilling life for most men. There are men that can go through life literally with nobody, and that's fine. If that's who you are, be who
It's
you
not
are.
that you don't have anybody. It's that you don't let anybody take advantage of you.
Sure.
And the people who are
But-
worth calling friends, the people, the women that are worth having a relationship with, all of that will fall into line. But if you ever need somebody or you need their validation, turn in your man card.
Harumph.
Right, exactly. But that's not exclusive to men. Women can also know exactly who they are and know their value. Know their value comes from within and not from without. I'm not saying that it is as prevalent, but again, I wish that more moms and dads, but especially more dads, would raise their daughters to know their worth and know their value, so they don't go seeking it from other people. Because if you're constantly seeking somebody else to tell you what you're worth, then number one, you're going to live life very disappointed for the rest of your life, and number two, you're not going to ever get told the truth. You're only going to get told what you're worth to them. You need to know, ladies, you need to know that you have value in and of yourself. You need to know your worth, and you need to believe that value, that you have value and that you are worth a lot. And that is where, when a woman finally realizes that, then she starts to require from a man the things that she requires from a man. And she won't change who she is, and she won't do things that she knows aren't the best things to do in order to get or keep a man. It works both ways, right? And I went through a lot of my life not knowing exactly who I was, or not willing to stand up and be exactly who I was. And I'm not perfectly there yet, right? And I don't know anybody that really is 100%, but I do know that I've found out who I am and learned who I am and become who I am a lot more in the last 5 to 10 years. I didn't 100% know who I was even when I met Sandhill's sweetheart, but I've learned a lot more about me, and I think I've become me a lot more, which hopefully makes sense to people. I think I have. Do you think I have? Is it better that, even though that who I am isn't always great, that
Don't seek her validation. That's not masculine.
Yes, dear.
I'm not seeking her validation. I'm seeking her confirmation. Isn't that right, honey? Okay, well, she says it's time to wrap it up. So, guys, we got to wrap it up.
There we go.
I'm the
I'm
man.
about to
and I
validate
say
this
that
burrito
what-
right here, John. That's what I'm going to validate.
You're the man. You're the man, and the wife says to wrap it up. So you're gonna.
Exactly right.
So it's
I
time
wear
to
the
wrap it
pants in
up.
this relationship, and she tells me which pants to wear.
I don't take any crap from anybody but you. The man song.
I'm in my house, not alone. Yes, that's
When
exactly
she says
right.
dump, she says, "Yeah, right."
Okay, so let's give everybody a chance to wrap up. We'll give you the chance for final thoughts and shameless plugs for the stuff that you do. So Pat, we'll let you lead this one off.
Thanks for having me on. It was definitely a good conversation tonight. A lot of good stuff here tonight. I just wanted to say, go check out everybody's channel here tonight. Everybody's got really good stuff going on. So, other than that, I've just been busier than the heck. I'm a farmer. I'm a rancher. So I am right in the thick of it right now, and it is so dry that I've literally got all my pivots running just to get the corn out. So, so busier than a one-legged man in a butt kicking contest. And thanks for having me on tonight, John.
You bet. Thanks for being here. All right, Charlie, final thoughts and shameless plugs for things like riding shotgun with Charlie.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm glad you asked me on, and I'm glad I made the time for it. This is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to reading Tom's book, or at least paying for Tom's book.
That's the part I'm looking forward to.
I know exactly. Check the Venmo. Anyway, it's good to catch up, and great to be back on and hear what everyone's got to say about what it is to be a man. Please check out Writing Shotgun with Charlie on the YouTube and the podcast. Check out Writing Shotgun with Charlie on what is it? Armed Lifestyle Magazine. And I've actually been starting to write for news2aid.com as well. And I just wrote an article on a gun law speaking tour that they're doing here in occupied territory. And I'm going to be going to another one on Monday night. So if you want to see what's been going on in occupied territory, please check out news2aid.com and all things Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Thank you, man.
You bet. Thanks for being here. All right, Squib, we'll give you a chance for final thoughts. And if you want to put out any shameless plugs, go ahead.
No, man, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Here, I'll give you a thumb up. There you go.
Hey, thanks.
Yep. Bye.
Wait a minute. My wife just said I'm with Squib. You can't go to bed with Squib. I will draw the line there.
I'm with Squib.
There are lines.
If I don't get to go to bed with Squib, and she's not gonna get to. No, just as far as I know, he's not even in the same state as me, so I think we're pretty safe there.
As far as he knows.
Same state of masculinity, bro.
If I had to tell you to stay away from my girl, she wouldn't be my girl. But stay away from my girl. All right, Tom, we'll give you a chance for closing thoughts and shameless plugs.
All right. Well, the shameless plugs are you can find me at bearingarms.com where I write way too much every day, but I love it. So who cares? You can also pick me up at Substack, tomknighton.substack.com, called Tilting at Windmills. Check it out. Feel free to spend money there. There's also that whole book link. You know, I don't have to read it, just pay for it. That's all I care about. And final thoughts, I think that the important thing that every guy should remember is, you know, the old saying about, you know, the devil looks at you and says, you can't withstand the storm. And then you lean forward and go, I love your eggs.
It's true.
That's rules to live by.
I do love his eggs. They're delicious.
I do. His cake's not bad, but the eggs are just.
I had some really good ones Easter weekend over at my in-laws' house, and they were awesome. I ate way more than I ought to have, and I pre-apologize as I'm eating the fifth one to my wife. I'm sorry you got to ride home with me, but
my mother-in-law made deviled eggs a couple of days ago, and she lives like 18 feet from us, and she still didn't tell us until after they were done, and she had eaten them. She knows me and my son.
Smart lady. All right. Tom, thanks for being
when
here.
my father-in-law was around, he didn't even last that long.
That's awesome. All right. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you. Travis.
Love being here, man.
We'll give you a chance to back clean up here.
Yeah, man, no problem. Great discussion tonight. I think it's definitely a good one. I just, it's good to define what is masculine, what's not, and then this idea of toxic masculinity and what it's not. As for myself, cheap plugs, you know, I've got 280 episodes of Caliber Corner and 5 seasons under my belt. If you've got nothing to do on Saturday, check out a back episode of that because we won't be live on Saturday. I just want to get that out right now. I've got items to prepare for Thunder on the Prairie 2023, and it's going to occupy my morning, so I'm not going to be able to go live. But otherwise, check out my channel, Travis P11. I've also got a B channel called Coffee, Computers, and More, where we try all kinds of different things, tech videos, food, coffee reviews. It's a lot of fun. Otherwise, I think that's about it. So just type in Travis P11. You can find me all over social media. So good discussion tonight. It's been fun. I think it's been a really good one, and it was a good time. So thank you.
You bet. Thanks for being here. All right, shameless plugs for me. Of course, this is pretty much it. I really want to plug. If you're subscribed to us here, go find Nebraska Firearms Owners Association on Facebook, especially YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Go to nebraskafirearms.org, become a member. Even if you don't live here, you can still be an associate member. It's free. We're a free organization to join, but we're riding the crest of the wave right now, the high coming off of becoming the 27th state in the union to go have the governor sign permitless carry into law. So we're happy about that. Those of you going to GRPC, we should have most, if not all of our board. We're all going to go this year so that we can all get up there on the stage together and bask in the adoration of the room when they announce that, you know, who we are, and you can all, you know, say you're not worthy or whatever. And we'll be around later for photo opportunities and autographs. But mostly that's true. Everybody else isn't quite as conceited on the board as me. Some of them are even worse. But honestly, that's the biggest thing I want to plug. Also, I want to plug diversityshoot.com. And the second is for everyone that Tony Simon does. If you've been watching this show for a while, you've seen Tony come here a few times. He's a great guy. He's planning a tour out through the flyover states, the Great Plains, Tornado Alley, with his diversity shoots here in a couple weeks. I think he said Oklahoma. I know he's going to be in Kansas, and he's coming to Lincoln, Nebraska. And I can tell you that he'll be in Wichita Monday the 22nd. He'll be in Lincoln May 23rd at Big Shots Gun Store and Range. They're in Lincoln with a diversity shoot. So I want to plug that. I want you to go check out diversityshoot.com and just find out what it's all about. And I want you to follow Nebraska Firearms Owners Association because we will be having an online town hall meeting. It's basically this. I run it off the same StreamYard program. I just do it for NFOA. But we'll have Tony and probably our president, Trish Harold, and myself. I don't know who else will be on there, where Tony's just going to talk about what Diversity Shoot is and how we shouldn't gatekeep. Everybody has the same rights under the Constitution. Therefore, whoever you are, if you got told that guns aren't for you, that's not true. And we want you in the fold. We want you as gun owners, right? And ultimately, we would love it if you would join us in the fight to secure the rights of everybody else, you know, yourself included. But that's coming up. I want you to find that. Once we get it scheduled, we will put the notices out for that. Next week, right here on the Get Off My Lawn podcast, we'll have Sheriff CJ Smith out of Dundee County, Nebraska. That's out there in the not the Panhandle, but the southwest part of the non-Panhandle part of Nebraska. He's got some stuff he wants to talk about the ATF's arm brace rule. He wants to talk about a little bit about, of course, LB 77 here in Nebraska, permitless carry that got signed. He was there too for the signing. And then he wants to talk about how there are a lot of folks in Nebraska, not in his county, not the voters, but some other folks are trying to make it to where he can't be sheriff because he's got a strong opinion on the pistol brace rule and among other things. So tune into that. Check it out next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Time, the only time zone that matters. Real quick here, we've got the list. So those of you that made comments, thank you. We appreciate it. We wouldn't know that you were out there if you hadn't made the comments. I do wish that StreamYard would let me just pick just the Facebook people out so I can see them. But I know we had a few people out there on Facebook. We had, where'd they go? Sean Hopkins was out there. Michael Frost was out there. And if I missed you on Facebook, it's because you didn't comment enough and I didn't see your name come through. On the YouTube side, we had Kingpin, we had Sam of Anarchy, we had Defense Dad, Jamie Brown, Travis P11, Clint Taurus. Pat in a Bunker, Squibload, Blitz, Gizzard Gary, Burnaby Sanchez, Vash Matrix, Fluffy 10mm Jeep Guy, Robert Cruz Jr., Mr. Knives, Clover Tack, Hillbilly, Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Again, if we missed you, you just didn't comment enough. We didn't see you out there. So thanks everybody for joining us. Over on the Rumble side, we had Jeff4029 out there saying hello from St. Ed, Nebraska, and nobody else. So again, I would love to grow the Rumble side of things. Really cool stuff. So go give that a look. On behalf of Pat and Charlie and Squib and Tom, Travis, Sandhill Sweetheart, and the puppy's getting rambunctious, Liberty Bell is apparently needing to go outside. So we got to wrap this up. Thanks for being here, everybody. We love you. God bless you. We'll catch you next week. You don't have to go home, but I tell you what, you do have to do.